Hello, good afternoon from here. Yeah, and I'm live. So today we are talking about continue the conversation on body safety stories, lessons from the Bible. Okay, so if you're catching a replay, you're welcome. Join me every single day as we x-ray Bible story, lessons from Bible stories that we can actually adapt to teach our children body safety. So I'm here watching, I'm on Facebook and I'm on YouTube. So pardon me. So last week we had a conversation about Joseph, and we were able to adapt the story to 3 to 5 year olds. So today our goal is to adapt the story to um, to 6 to 8 year olds, right? I hope the network will let us do what we're doing to tell the story in a way that the children or the age of that child will be is age appropriate. You understand? So if a child for little ones, we have told the story in a very short way and straight to the point. The story in this case is the story of Joseph and Potiphar's wife. Okay, so how can we bring this whole thing all about? And I remember saying that except we are able to relate, except we are able to relate with the stories in the Bible, okay, it will look like cockaboo stories. It will look concern us. But especially for our children, we need to be able to bring these stories to life, make it relatable with them, extract the lessons from them, and let them understand that look, I could be Joseph. And if I'm Joseph in the own challenges be, yeah, I said last time that there's not nobody's going to sell your child to be a slave, right? Nobody's going to sell your child to be a slave. So they can actually relate with Joseph without being a slave. I also said that there are still conditions or situations where your child can relate with Joseph. I talked about temporarily, the children go to school every morning and come back. They're in preschool, nursery school, um, um, primary school, and some secondary school. The children will temporarily leave your home for say 8 hours from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. and thereabouts. And that period is a period where they are Joseph because at that time they are not with you. they are not with their parents, they are not, but but in that case, they're also with their teachers, but of course, not every time, right? And then apart from that, your child could also be in boarding house, right? Yes, and even though they are also under the supervision of teachers, house masters, and so on and so forth, they are still away from you, who is their greatest influence at the time, like who some of children fear. And then, of course, a time maybe he's abroad or in his university that is far away from home, where they have to live on their own. This time around, they are really, really, really Joseph. At this point, they, that child is now really lecture or whatever you want to do. Nobody is monitoring or supervising. And then at this point, it's decision time. Like, and now you're going to know who is who and who knows what. So you see, when you talk about it like this, you see that your child will begin to relate to Joseph. That at a point in my life, I'm going to be away from authority. I'm going to be away from parents. How am I going to live if I find myself in Joseph's situation? How am I going to live? What kind of decisions am I going to take? That's one thing, one work you have to do. Can you make your child relate with a particular Bible character for time based on what you want to teach? Can your child see themselves in a particular Bible character, even you as an adult, so that it doesn't look like the Bible is something somewhere else? So come to that point where we can bring down these stories, bring down these events in the Bible to our contemporary living. So for 6 to 8 year olds, we go ahead and say Joseph worked hard in Potiphar's house. Of course, you can actually tell the whole story of how Joseph was sold by his brothers to Potiphar, right? How he came to find himself in Egypt. And then, of course, you relate it to how they can find themselves in a place where they are not familiar with and with whom they are not familiar with. And sometimes situations that they are not comfortable with. And then he knew God wanted him to keep his body safe. When Potiphar's wife tried to touch him in ways that weren't okay, Joseph remembered his safety rules: say no, get away, tell someone. Can you see that? And that's exactly what Joseph did. But now we are bringing this lesson down to the contemporary time. So, yeah, he was in a situation where an older person wanted to touch his body in a way that was inappropriate. He was in a situation where he's a bigger person, a more powerful person, wanted to touch his body in an unsafe way. Examples of such times, it can be that person can be your teacher, that person can be your uncle, that person can be your auntie, that person can be your pastor, that person can be, I mean, Potiphar's wife. How can Potiphar's wife be the person of the now in your child's life? So you give those numerous examples. And then what happened? Even though Potiphar's wife was a person, remember Potiphar is Joseph's organ. And Potiphar's wife is very powerful, very big, very elderly, very influential. You can even use this story to teach older people, right? Older people. Hope my mic is working. Older people, because what Joseph faced is something many adults face in their workplaces, especially ladies, even guys. What am I talking about? That Joseph faced that kind of challenge means that many Josephs are there on the streets. So this story can be adapted even for adults, you know, adult men and women who are in the workforce. Okay, so but now we are talking about children. We're talking about children who can represent Potiphar's wife to a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old or an 8-year-old who can represent Potiphar's wife, somebody that is anybody that is just powerful, anybody that is bigger, special things for you. Anybody that can use their money to promise to get you your favorite toy, your favorite snacks. Those kind of people are Potiphar. And you can find them anywhere, just like Joseph found her in his house where he lives. Okay, now this is a beautiful one. Now, but Joseph remembered his safety rules. And he didn't just remember his safety rules, he also acted that Joseph remembered to number one, say no. Joseph said no. It's there in the Bible how Joseph continued to say no. Now you can use this story to teach refusal skills. Number one, don't get tired of saying no because that event didn't happen just in a day. It happened over time, but Joseph kept saying no. He wasn't tired of saying no. Now, at the point where it got physical, Joseph ran away. So that second lesson, run away. Why are we doing all this? Because in teaching body safety, repetition is something we cannot do that. So in different many ways, you have to be teaching the same principle. I know you've taught them shout, scream, bite, fight. Bringing the Bible into the teaching this time around. And you tell the story of how Joseph said no, how Joseph ran away, and how Joseph, of course, told somebody they will remember that lesson even better than ordinary theoretical teaching. So today, your 6-year-old or 7 or 8-year-old is going to learn that when they face to them, because that's what you have to do. Potiphar's wife can be anybody that is big, strong, more influential, has money to buy them these favorite things that they love. Okay, somebody that is so powerful. What do you do? Do like Joseph. Even though Joseph was just a small boy like you, he still said no and answered no and kept saying no. And from there, he ran away at the point where it was looking like Potiphar's wife is going to force him. He ran away. He even left his clothes. You can actually even act role model, role play his way, even left his clothes, leaving your shoe. And of course, the last part of the cycle is telling someone, right? Telling someone, well, around, right? So he wasn't able to, nobody was going to give him a listening ear. So, but you must teach that and tell them that after you have run away, you must go and tell somebody report. Now, let's take this to the next level. extract to let somebody to do to know that it's time to let someone out of their personal space. Example of personal space. Wherever they're seated, okay, or they are standing at every point in time. By the time, that's how I teach the children. By the time you stretch your hands this way and you turn around, that whole circumference is your personal space, right? So if you're seated there, by the time you stretch your hand, just know this is how far someone can come close to me and I'm safe. Once the person begins to come too close, then there is alarm. My alarm system must go off. Okay. Then of course, when you're using your device, it's also your personal space. Once someone begins to come close to peep into the device, that means that personal space is being encroached, right? So just teach your children to be able to recognize per time. Sometimes their personal space is their room. Their personal space is their space right in school, the classroom where they are seated, okay, where they are seated on their desk. That's also personal space. How who can come so close and so on and so forth. Then identifying the next lesson that you can teach your 6 to 8 year old is to identify safe and unsafe situations. I didn't just say safe and unsafe touches. I said safe and unsafe situations. They are two different things. An unsafe situation can incorporate unsafe look, unsafe words or speech, and of course, unsafe touch. Those are the three things that make an unsafe situation unsafe. Okay, so somebody can be looking at you from a distance and you start feeling the look makes you feel unsafe. That's an unsafe situation. Okay, so they need to understand and identify safe and unsafe situations. Joseph was in an unsafe situation from right from time. I'm sure he began to get, I'm sure Potiphar's wife started with those looks, right? And then, of course, she graduated into the speeches and then into the physical touch. And that's how a lot of these predators can actually run their run their stuff. Okay, so look at it. That's why I say they need to learn how to identify unsafe and safe situations, not just an unsafe touch, because unsafe situations can arise even without or before an unsafe touch ever happens. Okay, so I said it before, Potiphar's wife must have been looking at him in an unsafe way, and he recognized it that look, the way this woman is looking at me is not normal. Before she graduated into an unsafe word, unsafe speeches, she began to persuade him, come to bed with me. Okay. And then before finally she graduated to the unsafe touch, which made him to run away. So, but you need to teach yourself because Joseph feeling unsafe, they look by from somebody. That child should just know that something is wrong and should be able to leave immediately and talk to somebody safe. Okay, so you distinguish between safe and unsafe situations, safe and unsafe touching, using the feelings approach, not just the approach or any touch in your private part is a bad touch or an unsafe touch. Because a lot of times, before anybody touches a child in the private part, the person might have touched the child, even on their hands, or on their head, or on their feet, or on their back, past the back. But at that point, that child was being touched, maybe given a handshake or being patted on the back. At that point, the child was already feeling unsafe. And you would say because that touch is on the public part that it is safe. So talk about unsafe and safe using the feelings approach. How do you feel how did you feel or how do you feel when that person touched you or when he touches you? You felt unsafe, you felt sad, you felt uncomfortable, you felt happy, you felt comforted, these touches like a hug from mommy, high five from teacher, and so on and so forth. And give examples of unsafe touches, which include things like sitting on the lap of people or someone kicking the person or touching their private part. That doesn't end there. We also saw in Joseph's story that Joseph was very, very resolute in saying no, in refusing the advances of Potiphar. How can that be related or brought down to a 6 to 8 year old child? Using a strong, using our strong voice when someone tries to touch us in an unsafe way. Okay, not just an ordinary no, but you must use a strong voice because the way you say no will determine if that predator is going to let you be or not. So Joseph used a strong voice. That's for the fact. Right from the time it was an unsafe look from Potiphar's wife, it was an unsafe speech from Potiphar's wife up until it became an unsafe touch. Joseph maintained a strong voice of no. So you need to actually role model or role play the strong voice of no. So say shout no or stop it. Exactly that's what Joseph did. There was no confusion as to whether he was saying no or yes. And that's what many children don't know. You're saying yes, you're saying no, and the person you're telling it to is confused. Do you really mean no? Okay. Then run into safety. Don't stay there. Run to your parents or trusted adults and report. That's another lesson Joseph did not do because he didn't even have any parents or safe adults around. But of course, we're here to do better than Joseph. And finally, trust your feelings. Whenever you feel unsafe, indeed you are unsafe. Now that's very important because even us as adults, we are not even sensitive to that time when the child is feeling unsafe. So you go hug that auntie, oh give her a peg, oh go to their house, and you saw the reaction of that child. That child is not really they, they might not even know how to communicate to you to let you know that look, I'm not feeling safe with this person. But you see that the child is very reluctant, then there's something wrong. And if that child is really feeling unsafe, indeed that feeling is true, leave immediately. Remember, I talked about the unsafe look. At the point when you begin to feel uncomfortable with the way somebody's looking at you, leave immediately. I talked about unsafe speech. You allow somebody and the person is using unsafe speeches, bad words with you. It's an unsafe situation. Leave immediately. And of course, the final level, the unsafe touch. Okay, at that point when Potiphar's wife was about to touch Joseph fled. You see, so at any of these levels of unsafe situations, your children must learn how to live immediately. Now, finally, we are going to talk about the safety action plan that you can actually teach your child. Use the no go tell method. Very easy to remember. No go tell. No go tell. Say no firmly, leave the situation immediately, and tell a trusted adult. Is what no go tell. That's exactly what Joseph did. And if you must be like Joseph and keep yourself safe like Joseph, you must also learn the no go tell method. Trust your feelings. We have said that before. If something feels wrong, then indeed it is. Your feelings are valid and important. I always say that because the brain of children are not completely developed, it's still under construction. I'm talking about the front, the logical, the thinking brain. It's still under construction. So a lot of times, before they even begin to arrange themselves to think about the situation, God already set up that feeling, that part of their brain that is in charge of feelings. God has already set it there as their safe system, as their alarm system. So, and it can be trusted when it comes to safety, right? It may not be trusted in making decisions, but it can be trusted when it comes to safety. God just put it there without their input, without their efforts. That feeling comes to them and they feel that something is wrong. Indeed, it's wrong. 100% of the time, something is wrong. And you don't have to understand it. You don't have to, oh, but what's happening? Did she touch you? No. Did she beat you? No. Did she say anything to you? No. But just being around that person, the child is feeling uncomfortable. You understand? He must be trusted and acted upon. And finally, identify trusted adults. Because we said, of course, that you are going to tell trusted adults. So you're going to help your family or your children make a list of 3 to 5 safe adults, which could include parents, teachers, counselors, and they know that they can always talk to. So we can apply the no go tell strategy that Joseph applied in keeping himself safe from a very powerful, strong, rich woman called Potiphar's wife. Okay, so you can actually break the story down to uh, a contemporary story. For example, the one I have here says Mimi loved playing with her neighbor Tunde. One day, Tunde's older cousin Kola said, "Let's play a special game, but don't tell anyone. If you say no, I won't let you play with us again." Mimi felt uncomfortable. She remembered how Joseph said no to Potiphar's wife when she tried to make him do something wrong. So Mimi shook her head and said, "No, I don't want to play." Kola got upset, but Mimi ran home and told her mom. Her mom hugged her and said, "I'm proud of you for being brave and telling me." As you see, so they recognize these things with stories. And that's why I'm bringing this, the Bible, the stories, body stories, body safety stories from the Bible, all right, for the Christian child who should understand that, look, whatever you're facing or you will face, somebody else has faced it, and you're going to learn how they overcame it. Or you're going to learn what they are supposed to do that they did not do, so that when you find yourself in that situation, you will also do the right thing. That's for 6 to 8 year olds. And just continue that way and then bring in some activities to establish the learnings. Remember, I said before that if we don't, as Christian parents, have conversations about sex with our children, we risk losing our values. We risk exposing our children to teachings and lessons and values that are worldly. And we risk having a generation that don't have any inclination or any idea, any knowledge about what God's will is about their sexuality. We risk having children who don't think or don't believe that God has anything to say about their sexuality. Meanwhile, it's God that created it. It's God that made it. It was God's complete idea. So I encourage you to start from where you are. Start simple, go on as much as you can. If you don't know what to say, it's time to learn from those that already know how to go about it. It's time to learn how to go about these conversations without feeling embarrassed, without feeling ashamed, without feeling guilty. It's a conversation, it's a must have conversation with our children. Yesterday, we saw on the timeline a young man who was a fellowship leader, who probably was raised with a solid foundation of Christianity from home. And up to when he got to the university, he became a fellowship leader. Okay, so now he said he's now um a gay that loves Jesus Christ. He said he's not a gay that loves Jesus and actually went and got married legally to a fellow guy over there abroad. What happened? What happened? You can just assume that my child knows what I stand for. My child knows it's wrong to be gay. My child knows that it's not God's will. Legitimately, a lot of people don't know. We have to educate ourselves. What are even the risk factors? What is driving these young people that way? There are a lot of things. A lot of things. So if we keep our mouths shut and not have these conversations, we are not we are never going to be in a position to help those that are already in there. And I'm telling you for free, right inside your church, right inside your religious organization, there are young people that are having the temptation, the feeling, the attraction to same sex. But of course, there's nobody to talk to because everybody is already sitting on their judgment throne or their judgment seat. So till I see you tomorrow, thank you for joining. And if you're catching the replay, I want to see your comments here. Thank you so much and see you next time.